There, this is U.S. Constitution. We're not there yet, are we? Are we getting there? Are we live in the YouTube? Hello out there, YouTube land. Live in 6 published. Okay, we're live. Hallelujah, YouTube land. This is U.S. Constitution coming to you from Minneapolis Television Network in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're talking about the United States of America foretold in the Holy Scriptures in the Battle of Armageddon. We're talking about the Republic for the United States.org. We got the Citizens Rule Book here, and we can read some statements from the Citizens Rule Book. We've got Lincoln said, "Study the Constitution and let it be preached from the pulpit, proclaimed in legislatures, and enforced in courts of justice." Rights come from God, not the state. That's why we say it's the Constitution for the United States. It's not the Constitution of the United States, which, you know, Governor Walz, if you would understand this, when you swear in this Constitution of the United States, no, you're not defending the right Constitution. The right Constitution is the Constitution for the United States. The throne of God knows about the deception of that, and many of the people in America know about that too. And people go on and they're living their lives thinking that they're swearing to the right Constitution. If they're deceived by the devil, they're deceived. They don't understand. And they need to wake up. You have rights at descent into all earthly governments, rights that cannot be repealed or restrained by human laws, rights derived from the great legislator of the universe. And he opened the door on the cross. He opened the door for liberty forever after that. Jury duty. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. The purpose of this book is to revive, as Jefferson put it, the ancient principles. It is not designated to promote lawlessness or a return to the jungle. The ancient principles refer to the 10 Commandments and the common law. The common law is in simple terms, just plain common sense, and has its roots in the 10 Commandments. In 1776, we came out of bondage with faith, understanding our courage even against great odds and with much bloodshed. We battled our way to achieve liberty. Liberty is the delicate area between the force of government and the free will of man. Liberty brings freedom of choice to work, to trade, to go and live where one wants to, where one wishes. It leads to abundance. Abundance is, if made and in itself, will result in complacency, which leads to apathy. Apathy is the let George do it philosophy. This always brings dependency for a period of time. Dependents are often not aware that they are dependent. They delude themselves by thinking that they are still free. We never had it so good. We can still vote, can't die. Eventually abundance diminishes and dependency becomes known by its true nature, bondage. There are few ways out of bondage. Bloodshed and war often result. But our founding fathers learned of a better way, realizing that a creator is always above and greater than that which he creates. They established a threefold system by which an informed citizenry can control those acting in the name of government. To be a good master, you must always remember the true pecking order, or chain of command in this nation. Number 1, God created man. Number 2, man, that's you, created the Constitution. But the government gave it back to us now in the form of Constitution of the United States. We're not supposed to receive a constitution from a government. A government is a principality and power of satanic origin, and it does not have any legal standing in America, but it's here and under the smoke of law. Constitution created government. There we go. Now the government is under the Constitution. But when you, the United States corporate government, starts to tell the people you swear by the Constitution of the United States, that's fake. That's smoke of law. Government created corporations, etc. But did the government have permission to create corporations? The ones we have today, no. Because government turn the Constitution around. So we're backwards right now. We need to, you can swim backwards or you can swim forwards. When you swim forwards with your feet forward, you're swimming like backstroke forward, but you can see where you're going. If you can catch those words. But we need to get back to the republic for which it stands. The base of power was to remain in we the people. But unfortunately, it was lost to those leaders acting in the name of government, such as politicians, bureaucrats, judges, lawyers, etc. As a result, America began to function like a democracy instead of a republic. A democracy is dangerous because it is a one-vote system as opposed to a republic, which is a three-vote system, 3 votes to check tyranny, not just one. American citizens have not been informed of their other 2 votes. Our first vote is at the polls on election day. When you sign the poll, you sign down, are you a U.S. citizen? You click yes. No, you should put on there, no, I'm one of the, like a Minnesota Territory. I'm from the Minnesota Territory citizen of the United States, which belongs to the United States, but it's another nation within the nation, the United Nations. The United States is actually United Nations. So, we're not a U.S. citizen of the corporate United States. That's fictitious government. It's a de facto fake smoke-up law government. It's not supposed to be in existence. It came in existence by deception, by satanic means. So the United States corporate needs to go back, and Trump needs to send it back and bring back the republic. So our first vote is at the polls on election day when we pick those who represent us in the seats of government. But here they're forcing us to vote for senators and legislators and governors that belong to corporate Minnesota, corporate United States, corporate things that are not our original government, but smoke-up law, which will give an account to God someday in the day of judgment, because God is not willing that they would have perished, but they're doing it at their own peril. They're fighting against the gospel and the liberty that's here for 2,000 years since the cross. But what can be done if those elected officials just don't perform as promised or expected? Well, the second 2 votes are the most effective means by which the common people of any nation on earth have ever had in controlling those appointed to serve them in government. The second vote comes when you serve on a grand jury. Before anyone can be brought to trial for a capital or infamous crime by those acting in the name of government, permission must be obtained from the people serving on the grand jury. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune in March 27, 1987 edition noted a purpose of the grand jury this way. A grand jury's purpose is to protect the public from an overzealous prosecutor. The third is the most powerful vote. This is when you are acting as a jury member during a courtroom trial. At this point, the buck stops with you. It is in this setting that each juror has more power than the president, all of Congress, and all of the judges combined. Congress can legislate, make law. The president or some other bureaucrat can make an order or issue regulations, and judges may instruct or make a decision. But no juror can ever be punished for voting not guilty. Any juror can, with impunity, choose to disregard the instructions of any judge or attorney in rendering his vote, or lawyer, lawful. If only one juror should vote not guilty for any reason, there is no conviction and no punishment at the end of the trial. Thus, those acting in the name of government must come before the common man to get permission to enforce a law. And there was not allowed bills of attainder. Now, a bill of attainder, one of them is when they pick up your car and tow it away to the impound lot. They took your car. That's a bill of attainder. You're not supposed to take your car. It's yours. They want to lift your car up and remove the snow. That's a different story. And try to charge you for it. That's a different story. But for them to steal your car and make you come pay for your car to get it out, that's a bill of attainder. Those things are unlawful under our original government. But this de facto government likes to use those things and persecute us, we the people, so that the government doesn't have to be changed back to the republic. They're trying to hang on to their position because it's advantageous for the flesh of those people in charge. As a juror in the trial setting, when it comes to your individual vote of innocence or guilty, you truly are answerable to God Almighty. just as these people who create this fake government that stops this process are also going to answer to God Almighty. But we hope and pray that they would just repent and come back to God. The First Amendment to the Constitution was born out of this great concept. However, judges of today refuse to inform jurors of their rights. Now they're going to have to give an account to God, aren't they? Because they're going back from liberties per ways. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune, in the newspaper article appearing in its November 30th, 1984 edition, entitled "What Judges Don't Tell the Jury," stated, at the time of the adoption of the Constitution, the jury's role as defense against political oppression was unquestioned in American jurisprudence. This nation survived until 1850s, when prosecutions under the Fugitive Slave Act were largely unsuccessful because juries refused to convict. Then judges began to erode the institution of free juries, leading to the absurd compromise that is the current state of the law. While our courts uniformly state juries have the power to return a verdict of not guilty, whatever the facts, they routinely tell the jurors the opposite. The jury has the power to return a verdict, but the judges are telling them different. Further, the courts will not allow the defendants or their counsel to inform the jurors of their true power. A lawyer who made Hamilton's argument would face professional discipline and charges of contempt of court. But what logic should juries have the power to acquit a defendant but no right to know about that power? The court's decisions that have suppressed the notion of jury nullification cannot resolve this paradox. More than logic has suffered. As originally conceived, juries were to be kind of a safety valve, a way to soften the bureaucratic rigidity of the judicial system by introducing the common sense of the community. If they are to function effectively as the conscience of the community, jurors must be told that they have the power and the right to say no to a prosecution in order to achieve a greater good. To cut jurors off from this information is to undermine one of the most important institutions, one of our most important institutions. Perhaps the community should educate itself. Then citizens called for a jury duty could teach the judges a needed lesson in civics. This booklet is designed to bring to your attention one important way our nation's founders provided to ensure that you, not the growing army of politicians, judges, lawyers, and bureaucrats, rule this nation. It will focus on the true power you possess as a juror, how you got it and why you have it, and remind you of the basis on which you must decide not only the facts placed in the evidence, but also the validity or applicability of every law, rule, regulation, ordinance, or instruction given by any man seated as a judge or attorney when you serve as a juror. One juror can stop tyranny with a not guilty vote. He can nullify bad law in any case by hanging the jury. I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. What I can do, I should do, and with the help of God, I will do. Everett Hale. The only power the judge has over the jury is their ignorance. We, the people, must return a desperately needed lesson in civics. Relearn this lesson in civics. The truth of this question has been answered by many testimonies and historical events. Consider the following. Jury rights. The jury has a right to judge both the law as well as the fact in controversy. Now, if the law is smoke of law, illegal and not really law, the jury has the right to judge both the law as well as the fact in controversy, the facts. John Jay, First Chief Justice, U.S. Supreme Court, 1789. The jury has the right to determine both the law and the facts. tell the judge that. Samuel Chase, U.S. Supreme Court Justice, in 1796, signer of the unanimous declaration. The jury has the power to bring a verdict in the teeth of both law and fact. Oliver Wendell Holmes, U.S. Supreme Court Justice, 1902. The law itself is on trial quite as much as the cause which is to be decided. Harlan F. Stone, 12th Chief Circuit Judge, Supreme Court, 1941. The pages of history shine on instances of the jury's exercise of its prerogative to disregard instructions of the judge. U.S. versus Doherty, 473 F. 2nd, 1113, 1139, 1972. Law of the land. The general misconception is that any state statute passed by the legislators bearing the appearance of law constitutes the law of the land. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. This is succinctly stated as follows. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S., 1803. So, if I take the Constitution 4 and I put it aside and I bring out all these senators and legislators and President Trump himself and all these judges and people, and I say, now you swear your oath Constitution of the United States. Now that is repugnant to the Constitution for the United States. So how are we going to fix that problem? You're going to have to get this government that's going wild under control. Like it's like you got to tame a horse, right? How do you tame a horse? You get on it and ride it until it stops. Well, notice has been given to all the governors to stop this Constitution of type government. And here I'll show you an example of it. We've got some letters to the states. Here's the one to the state of Indiana. It's stamped and sealed. It was sent to the different states, you know, sent to Governor Dayton too. And it says here about the state of Indiana. State acknowledgement and affirmation of union, circa 2011. This is re-inhabiting the republic. We, the people of the Indiana Free State, a free and independent state, establish and continue a republic form of governance guaranteed by the United States Constitution, the one called Constitution 4, circa 1789, and Bill of Rights, circa 1791. And we, the people of Indiana Free State, hereby acknowledge and affirm that we are in union with people on other free and independent states comprising Republic for the United States of America, and by a manifest will and mutual agreement of we the people on this free state and independent state, we enjoy and lawfully protect our God-given unalienable rights of liberty, life, and the pursuit of property, happiness. And we the people on Indiana Free State uphold constitutional laws. Constitutional laws would be Constitution 4, not Constitution of. Constitution of is a fake one. Lawful treaties and lawful contracts. These contracts, since they killed Lincoln, are not lawful, and unless they're under the Constitution 4. And enforcement, which hasn't been re-inhabited yet. We're working on it. This is what this notice is about. And enactment thereof for this free and independent state and union for republic for the United States of America. And we the people hold that all officials elected or appointed for republic for the United States of America agree to protect the God-given unalienable rights endowed to the people and to honor and protect the freedom and independence of states and union at all times in accord with the Declaration of Independence, circa 1776, Constitution, circa 1789, Bill of Rights, circa 1791, and a Republican form of governance at all levels shall be recognized, adhered to, and preserved. And it was marked by the President and different ones on here that sent it to the states. And the letters were sent to many of the states. Here's to the Minnesota Republic, since we're in Minnesota here. State acknowledgement and affirmation of union, circa 2011. This is for Governor Waltz to hear this. We, the people of Minnesota Republic, a free and independent state, establish and continue a Republican form of governance guaranteed by the United States Constitution circa 1789 and Bill of Rights circa 1791. The Constitution of that Walt sworn in to go to be governor is not the Constitution for. That's a fake Constitution, not the real and original Constitution. We, the people of Minnesota Republic, hereby acknowledge and affirm that we are in union with people on other free and independent states comprising of Republic for the United States of America, and by manifest will and mutual agreement of we, the people, on this free and independent state, we enjoy and lawfully protect our God-given unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness or property. And we, the people of Minnesota Republic, uphold constitutional laws, lawful treaties, and lawful contracts, and enforce thereof for the free and independent state and unions for the Republic for the United States of America. And we, the people, hold that all officials elected or appointed for the Republic of the United States of America agree to protect the God-given unalienable rights endowed to the people and to honor and protect the freedom and independence of states and union at all times in accord with Declaration of Independence circa 1776, Constitution circa 1789, Bill of Rights circa 1791, and the Republican form of governance at all levels shall be recognized and adhered to and preserved. So the Republic has been re-inhabited, and then we have letters to the governors. Those are letters to the states, about the states. We also have letters to the governors. I think they have that in the book at home. Oh, here it is. I got one. See if I can find Minnesota's one. Let's see. Well, this is to the governors in general, I think. I think so. So second, okay, first order to the governors. Let's see. We'll read the first order to the governors of these United States, the Constitution of governors, the fake governors. First order to the governors of the de jure grand juries of the people of the United States of America assembled under God. Cease and desist all foreclosure and collection actions against the sovereign people. The people of your respective states, your family, neighbors, and friends who trust in your diligence, the mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, children, and grandparents who harbor expectations that you will first and foremost protect and preserve the posterity, being entitled to relief from a century of economic warfare waged by global money predators. You are hereby ordered by these de jure grand juries. This is an order to Governor Dayton in the day, and it should be an order to Governor Walz now today. It's not stopped. It's still an order when they will finally obey it. By these de jure grand juries to direct the men and women in, whether by private session or otherwise, occupying the highest judicial offices and applicable trial judges, to forthwith provide full faith and credit to Landmark National Bank versus Keller, Kansas, Lexus, 2009, and citations therein regarding implementation of strict rules of evidence and verification in all judicial cases involving foreclosure and collection of debt, thus requiring attorneys of records to certify to the court existence of debt, in fact, under penalty of perjury, barring the testimony of attorneys of record from all hearings in the matter at hand, requiring the exhibition of wet ink signed original instruments and contracts as a condition for filing and acting, requiring the appearance in open court of an officer able to testify under penalty of perjury to first and knowledge that such documents are in fact lost, requiring exhibition of all ledgers and accounts related to the transaction at issue, in particular off-balance sheet journals, requiring exhibition of the initial journal entry which identifies the source of the lender's funds in question, requiring the appearance in open court of a lending officer to certify under penalty of perjury the completeness of all records pertaining to the transaction at hand and first-hand knowledge as to the source of the funds in question, requiring verification of signature on all such documents in question, and requiring timely production of all such evidence and prosecution. You are hereby ordered to direct such men and women to approve within 24 hours all petitions for restraining orders, injunctions, or estoppels of any and all administrative or judicial actions which want for any or all of the affirmation exhibitions and or verifications. They don't have proper jurisdiction. Then we have second orders to the governors of the de jure grand juries of the people of the United States of America assembled unto God. Cease and desist all tax-related actions against the sovereign people. The state taxing agencies being unlawful collection arms for the Federal Reserve System and its principal private money predators and war profiteers being repugnant to the Constitution for the United States of America. There's the words now, Constitution for the United States of America, 1787, and an abomination to mankind, being corrupt beyond repair, assault upon the incarceration of the sovereign people by the government of their creation for failure to accede to thefts of their wealth under the guise of a legal process, being a sin and repugnant to the Constitution for the United States of America. They're doing robbing, killing, and destroying under the Constitution of, and it's repugnant to the Constitution for the United States. And this is ordered to the governors, like Mark Dayton, Minnesota governor at the time. Now it's ordered to Waltz, if he would hear it. You are hereby ordered by these de jure grand juries to direct the man or woman occupying the office of director, commissioner, or similar officer of the Department of Taxation of your prospective incorporated state to desist and desist from forthwith all investigations, actions, prosecutions, garnishments, liens, levies, and distress against the sovereign people, all members thereof, and all accounts, trusts, artifices, and legal fictions derived therefrom, real or imagined, as a result of tax, income tax, property tax, sales tax, and other tax-related charges, and are claims such as failure to file, failure to pay, obstruction and or conspiracy, and any verifical actions which do not involve a flesh and blood injured party. Quid pro quo, something of value for something of value. You can't punish somebody for something that they didn't do. You are hereby ordered to direct, so it's just the flesh of other people domineering over the flesh of others and not preserving the union by doing that. You are hereby ordered to direct the said men and women to prepare and deliver to these de jure grand juries no later than 30 days after the receipt of this order a complete list of all men and women within your state who are currently subject to or have been subjected during the 10 calendar years previous to the signing of this order to lien, levy, garnishment, invasion, investigation, distress, harassment, detention, judicial process, or similar acts of terrorism, whether past or ongoing, as a result of tax, income tax, property tax, sales tax, and other tax-related charges, and or claims such as, but not limited to, failure to file, failure to pay, obstruction, and or conspiracy. Cease and desist all judicial and quasi-judicial actions against the sovereign people for crimes which lacked an injured party. The people being sovereign with respect to the United States of America, Republic, 1787, at no time having willingly or knowingly granted standing to a corporate entity masquerading as a legitimate government to pose as an injured party with respect to the people's private affairs, or to impose an artificial personage on the people as a vehicle for presuming the people's submission to a commercial law venue, or to employ the judicial institutions and detention facilities of the free American republics for corporate profit. All such activities comprising crimes against mankind. Could these be felonies? Could they be worse than felonies? You are hereby ordered by these de jure grand juries to direct the men and women occupying all judicial offices within your respective state judicial system to forthwith cease and desist all actions and prosecutions against the sovereign people which want for an injured party and or witnesses willing to testify to first-hand knowledge of the alleged crimes under full liability, or whether the injured party is deemed to be a government entity. In particular, all such prosecutions which corporately impose a legal personality and or the admiralty, commercial, or administrative law venues upon the sovereign people for the purposes of facilitating such actions. Until further notice, all actions for non-violent crimes involving members of the sovereign people who duly and specifically identified themselves as such shall be referred to these de jure grand juries through procedures to be devised hereby. You are further ordered to direct the said men and women to prepare and deliver to these de jure grand juries within 30 days of receipt of this order a complete list of all men and women who are currently subject or suffering incarceration, distress, parole, or restriction as a result of such prosecution as described hereunder for want of an injured party. They're punishing people without any injured parties. They're going beyond the law. They did this in this corporate government Constitution of the United States. And all you senators in Minnesota, you know, and even my representative in my area and others in their areas, and Governor Walz, you're living in a fake government. You got to go back to the Republic and start doing the orders of we the people's grand jury and the people of the Republic states in the United States of the Republic for the United States. Provide safe passage through the states' republics free from government molestation. The people being sovereign with respect to the United States of America Republic, 1787. We are the ones in charge. We are the creditors, owing because God has given us that right. Because we preach the gospel of the good news, owing no allegiance or obligation to divulge the private affairs of the government of their creation, possessing absolute right to peacefully travel, congregate, assemble, and worship without government scrutiny or interference, and most certainly without sustaining bodily injury, detention, assault, kidnapping, and or distress for failure to exhibit state-issued documents which confess to subject class state citizenship, forcing people to be under the Constitution or under the corporate United States, which is fake government, and corporate Minnesota, corporate Hennepin County, which is fake government. You are hereby ordered by these de jure grand juries to direct the man or woman occupying the office of Secretary of State of your respective state republic to prepare an appropriate, verifiable, wallet-sized document by which guardians of the free republics will be afforded diplomatic immunity and safe passage through your respective state republic and by extension through the United States of America, free from government, detention, arrest, hindrance, interference, scrutiny, and or molestation. Such identification to be ready for production no later than 30 days after receipt of this order, and without language diminishing the sovereign people towards the state or subject class citizenship of this order, and without language diminishing the sovereign people towards the state of this state or subject class citizenship, with production thereafter to require no greater than 7 days after request. You are further ordered to direct the man or woman occupying the office of Commissioner of Motor Vehicles or similar office in your respective state to prepare an appropriate placard by which motorized conveyances in which a guardian of the free republics has an ownership or possessory interest will be afforded the same full faith and credit as above noted. Such placard to be ready for production no later than 30 days after the receipt of this order, and without language implying government ownership or the security interest in such conveyances, with production thereafter to be required no greater than 7 days after request. So what this is saying is that the state is to bring forth license plates that the people can have of their own, that they own the car, not the state. and driver's identification that people can have as their own, and it doesn't belong to the state or the county or any other such thing. And you think that would be lawlessness, but no, when people are responsible, and there's tort courts, and there's courts for property damage and personal injury, you know, people can be taken to court for killing somebody else. Those remedies are always there, and they're still there. You are further ordered to direct all men and women who occupy the highest law enforcement offices within your respective state to modify all criminal and other information databases, in particular the National Crime Information Center database, to reflect the diplomatic do not detain states of guardians of the free republics who exhibit the aforesaid identification document or equivalent identification or otherwise so identify themselves. Cease random roadblocks and other unlawful detentions. Cease forthwith all acts of violence against those members of the sovereign people who identify themselves as such as fail to exhibit confessions of state subject citizenry, and who are the subject of notices of tax lien, bank and foreclosures, county tax liens, and other fraudulent commercial artifices issued under color of law. So our taxes today on homes is under the color of law, because homes are supposed to be registered as private, not residences. Not a resident. Residence is a military barracks. That's why they tax them. Restore the trappings of lawful de jure governance. The people being entitled to notice of the return to lawful de jure governance of the free American republics and the United States of America Republic, 1787, as existed prior to December 20th, 1860, in a manner that does not disturb the peace and ordinary transition, and to demonstrate compliance with these orders to the governors, symbols of de jure governance shall be restored, beginning as follows. You know, the newspapers and the news people, they're supposed to be telling the free American people, you have your republic back. You don't have to have corporate de facto government controlling your lives anymore. But you are free to go to have your life as it was before they killed Lincoln. So here we go on with more of the orders for this to the governors. You are here ordered by these de jure grand juries to direct the necessary judicial and law enforcement officers of your respective state to replace all flags which identify incorporated military admiralty, maritime, and or commercial law firms with proper colors that identify the de jure law form of the respective free American Republic and the United States of America, 1787, in all state institutions, in particular in all state, county, and local courtrooms, courthouses, judicial institutions, state buildings, and law enforcement facilities no later than 90 days after receipt of this order, thereby proclaiming in an orderly fashion and without inciting vengeance for decades of crimes past, the preempting of corporate military authority in favor of the divine lawful authority of the sovereign people over their de jure affairs of state. You are further ordered to direct the aforesaid officials to modify, change, or replace all signs, flags, emblems, placards, official stationery, business cards, highway signs, websites, to remove all references to the office of the governor of the state of Minnesota in favor of the respective de jure notation, the governor of the Minnesota Territory, no later than 30 days after the receipt of this order. These things were done back in 2011, and apparently this government has decided to disobey these orders. So this new government, this old de facto government that killed Lincoln and afterwards they took over, they're not willing to step down yet. But they may soon be willing to step down, because the Lord is coming soon, and we need to go back in the direction of liberty. You are further ordered to direct the aforesaid officials to modify, change, or replace all signs. Oh, I just read that one, I think. Yeah. You are further ordered to direct the aforesaid state holders to replace the great seal of the state of the governors and the governor's seal for the purpose of replacing all references to the office of the governor of the state of Minnesota with respect to de jure notification, governor of the territory of the Minnesota, the Republic of Minnesota. Replace all references to the state of Minnesota with the respective de jure notation, the Republic of Minnesota. And reflect the coat of arms of the state as existed on December 19th, 1860, or the earliest existing coat of arms if your respective state was not in existence in December 19th, 1860. All such modifications to be completed no later than 45 days after receipt of this order. This is 2011. This is 2019. They didn't obey the order. Failure to comply with these orders to the governors completely and in good faith or plead necessity for additional time or clarification, see General Order 7. Retaliation or obstruction by corporate officers operating under de facto color of law against any of the signatories hereunto or agents hereof acting in furtherance of this declaration is deemed a capital crime. It is so ordered this certain day of the year of our Lord, 2010, by affixing hereto the state, each state's signatory numbers at least 26 souls duly comprising of the de jure grand juries of the free American Republic, pursuant to the unanimous declaration of the sovereign people of the United States of America to restore and re-inhabit the free American Republics, 2010. Test nipso by our hands, republic by republic, hereinafter following. General orders. There's some general orders to be read here now. Our most beloved fathers, mothers, sons, daughters who have selflessly volunteered to serve as the armed forces of the United States of America, and to whom by your oath of support and defend our Constitution are entrusted with the sacred duty to protect your families, neighbors, friends, the nation, and the posterity from enemies foreign and domestic, currently waging economic warfare against the people and the nation under God, and to all those whose diligent action is needed and bound by oath hereto. In particular to Michael Mullen, a man occupying the office of Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and all successors thereto. James E. Cartwright, a man occupying the office of Vice Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and all successors thereto. George W. Casey, Jr., a man occupying the office of Chief of Staff, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and all successors thereto. Gary Roughead, a man occupying the office of Chief of Naval Operations, and all successors thereto. Norton A. Schwartz, a man occupying the office of the Chief of Staff, United States Air Force, and all successors thereto. James C. Conway, a man occupying the office of the Commander of the Marine Corps, and all successors thereto. Robert Gates, a man doing business as United States Secretary of Defense, and all successors thereto. John Doe, men and women occupying the office of the United States Armed Forces and the Department of Defense, and to all others to whom these orders must necessarily apply. Whereas we, the people of the free American republics, have been under military occupation since 1861. That's why your house is called residence. It's residence of a military barracks. And various persistent unlawful states of national emergency have been declared and perpetuated without interruption since 1933, such that the freedoms of and governmental procedures guaranteed by the Constitution have in varying degrees been abridged by laws brought into force by states of national emergency. The Special Committee on Termination of the National Emergency, United States Senate, November 1973. Whereas such states of national emergency and hundreds of derivative emergency statutes have been duly confessed by the United States Federal Corporation to delegate to the President extraordinary powers ordinarily exercised by the Congress, which affect the lives of American citizens in a host of all-encompassing manners, to rule the country without reference to normal constitutional processes. The Special Committee on Termination of the National Emergency, United States. Whereas the people have been declared enemies of the state through the fraudulent means in a private corporate regulation known as the Trading with the Enemies Act, which has nothing to do with the Constitution for the United States of America. 1917, as amended 1933, by covertly diminishing their divine sovereign status to the pagan rank of legal fiction, U.S. person, thereafter presumed to be belligerents with respect to the United States Federal Corporation. Whereas all such events, manipulations, deceptions, and libels are wholly repugnant on their face to the Constitution of the free American republics and the Constitution for the United States of America. Whereas the members of the armed forces of the United States of America are bound by oath to obey the proper civilian authority and are guided in that duty by the United States Army and Naval Manual of Military Government and Civil Affairs with respect to in recovering domestic territory from enemy occupation, restoring civilian government, retaining property, civilian laws, removing high-ranking political officials from office, supervising, controlling, and closing civilian courts, protecting money, guarding banking facilities, and releasing political prisoners. Whereas we the people have proclaimed and reclaimed our rightful place as one of a lawful authority under God and pursuant to the constitutions of the 50 free American republics and the United States of America Republic, 1787, and have given due notice to the people of the earth and all governments with national and all governments and national derived therefrom. Whereas we the people have re-inhabited the legitimate de jure constitutional governments of the said free republics in peace and harmony. Whereas we the people, by the unanimous declaration of sovereign people of the United States of America to restore and re-inhabit the free American republics, 2010, have assembled under oath the well-regulated guardians of the free republics in all 50 free American republics. Whereas we the people have re-inhabited under oath the rightful de jure grand juries on the land in all 50 free American republics, herein proclaimed as these de jure grand juries or the de jure grand juries as the case may require. Whereas we the people, by the warrant and orders of to the governors of the de jure grand juries hereunder, have given due notice to the men and women occupying the office of governor of each of the 50 states of the United States Federal Corporation, and having recalled them one and all to de jure service as governors of their respective free American republics. Therefore, we the people, the one and only lawful sovereign authority on the land, do hereby peacefully and honorably, without malice for anyone, issue these general orders to the men and women of the armed forces of the United States of America. All successors thereto and nominees thereof pursuant to their duty by oath of the Constitution for the United States of America. Now let me repeat: the Constitution for the United States of America, 1787. And to all other people, governments, and nations to whom these general orders must necessarily apply. And we swear allegiance to the Constitution for the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We swear under that Constitution, but not the Constitution of. So all of you that have sworn the Constitution of, you were deceived. So say the true Constitution for the United States, swear to uphold the Constitution for the United States, and your oath will be reaffirmed in the truth. And you will now begin to tell the corporate government just what these orders say, if you're going to follow that. Now we all need to do it together. So yeah, all 50 states at the same time. When shall we do it? The end of April this year, 2019? The last day of April? That could be a time to do it for everybody to get ready to do it. General Order 1. Cease and desist all tax-related actions against the sovereign people. Cease and desist all foreclosures, collections. Okay, we just went through that. Mission statement. Our mission is to lawfully re-inhabit the de jure government of the Republic of the United States of America According to the principles set forth by the Constitution, circa 1791, of the United States of America, we are committed to restoring the Bill of Rights to the people, protecting property rights, conducting honorable commerce and trade, contracting and being contracted with, paying lawful debts, discouraging slavery and poverty, encouraging the development of technologies, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, housing the homeless, healing the sick, and fulfilling other humanitarian needs around the world. It is our mission to coexist with the corporate administrative government that currently occupies the District of Columbia. It is not our intent to hinder, harass, or interfere with the operations of the United States Corporation. Rather, it is our intent to establish a lawful government, convene Congress, and establish executive, legislative, and judicial branches of this government. This effort will protect the basic God-given rights to the people of the free republics within our borders. We will abide by the principles contained in the law of nations, all treaties and agreements to which we are lawfully bound. We request international recognition as a lawful sovereign government to which we, the people, have the unalienable right. It is our belief that the United States Corporation is bankrupt, insolvent, and will certainly collapse economically and irreparably. In preparation and anticipation of this imminent collapse of the United States Corporation, our plan is to implement lawful government, stabilize the economy, and prevent anarchy, civil war, and martial law in America and around the world. You know, when you have a dictator, you have oppression, and then when you have anarchy, you have evil in the land. And the democracy side can bring on anarchy with all the people rebelling, and the Republican side can go de facto and give us the dictators. And today, basically that's what's going on. The governors are dictators. The president is a dictator. I mean, Trump, you're president of the corporation, not president of the United States Republic, of which James Buchanan Geiger is. And we need to get you two together, and you need to slow down the de facto government, President Trump, and you need to let the Republic come in. For the orders were given in the year 2011, 2010 and 2011. Re-inhabitation. In 1776, after the Americans' victory in war for independence, a new government was born. In 1791, the founding fathers of our nation created what is called the Constitution for the United States of America. Remember the word for. Constitution for was made in 1791. This document was one of the founding documents that included the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. This document was ratified in 1791 and governed our nation until 1868, when the United States Corporation was created, unlawfully, of course. And that time, the 41st Congress of the United States voted to create a district called the District of Columbia. This district was an autonomous area that was created as a seat of the corporate government that was independent of all the 50 republics. Its jurisdiction was 100 square miles, and this continued until 1974, when it was reduced to 68 square miles after the state of Virginia reclaimed a portion of its land from the district. Congress at that time drafted a new constitution known as the Constitution of the United States. This constitution was brought forward without the consent of the American people, and since that time, the American people has governed by a new constitution that was not ratified by the people and did not have their consent. Congress did this quietly, behind the scenes, to deceive the American people and forced the people into slavery. You hear that, folks? We're in slavery right now today. Later, they added territories to this jurisdiction, such as Alaska, Hawaii, the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, etc. Every law that was ever passed by Congress of the corporation only applied to the United States corporate citizens. It never had any lawful authority on any citizen in any of the continuous 48 states except by their consent or by contract, which they were deceived into doing without their prior knowledge. This change in our government brought about a new legal system that operates on deception and deprivation of the rights of we the people. To make it legal, the system uses a process of tacit agreement, implied consent, and fraudulent contracts to bring we the people under the jurisdiction of this municipal corporation. The judiciary used this system to bring Americans under the jurisdiction of color of law. This is the only law they can use since they did not get the consent of the people to change the Constitution, which was founded on God's law. We the people did not say no, and Congress used this as our acquiescence and agreement to enforce the color of law statutes, ordinances, and regulations that were many times legal for United States citizens but not lawful for Americans. This allowed Congress and the judiciary to enslave a nation of free people and imprison many in a system that used hypothecation of prison bonds to make huge sums of money off the hardship of millions of formerly free people. This system operated from 1878 until March 30th, 2010, when we the people said it is finished. Lawful right to re-inhabit. In 2010 they said it's finished. But Governor Dayton didn't agree with that, did he? He didn't bring it forth. The lawful right to re-inhabit is inherited in the Declaration of Independence, circa 1776. The Declaration, one of our founding fathers' documents, declares our right to change, alter, or abolish any system of government that we believe is contrary to the safety and security of the American people. Let me say that again. The Declaration, one of our founding documents, declares our right to change, alter, or abolish any system of government that we believe is contrary to the safety and security of the American people. When they told King George, you're out, that's the same thing they were talking about. We'll do it again if we have to, is what they're saying. We the people re-inhabited our lawful de jure government on March 30th, 2010 by serving notice on the de facto corporation known as the United States. A lawful grand jury in each of the 50 republics created a new Declaration of Independence that was lawfully served on the corporate United States, informing them that the original de jure government was restored. We, the people of the United States republics, are the only lawful government within the borders of the United States of America. We have claimed our right to exist as a free and independent people on our land, thus exercising our God-given unalienable rights as defined in our Constitution and the Bill of Rights. De jure government. For better representation of we the people, this is about structure now, how it's going to come about. An executive committee has been formed by the guardian elders of the Restored American Plan to facilitate the restructuring of the lawful de jure government of the Republic of the United States of America. This committee has been lawfully sanctioned by a 2/3 majority vote of we the people and is currently functioning in its lawful capacity to restore and execute legislative and judicial branches. The executive committee first responsibility is to facilitate in the convening Congress and to reinstate the elections that will establish the government back into the hands of the people, for the people, and by the people. The second function is to create policy and procedure directives for each agency of the government that will support constitutional laws passed by Congress. The Executive Committee also holds the responsibility for obtaining the funding in order to appropriate establish a lawful domestic treasury for the Republic of the United States of America. Executive branch. The executive branch of government is guided by the President of the de jure Republic of the United States of America. The Secretary of State acts as the head of the state for international diplomatic relations. The cabinet positions create the implement policies to guide each agency or department by lawful governance for the benefit of we the people and the benefit for all of humanity. The following offices have been filled by 2/3 majority vote conducted by we the people on the land of the 50 de jure republics and are currently operational. Congressional delegates are being selected at this time, and Congress is currently being convened in order to fulfill the full establishment of lawful government offices of the Republic of the United States of America. The President, Vice President, and Executive Cabinet positions have been lawfully occupied by the consent of we the people through a 2/3 majority vote conducted, authorized and initialized on July 20th, 2010 by the de jure grand juries. Now we're going to show you a picture of Republic of the United States of America headquarters. The headquarters of the Republic of the United States of America is domiciled at 6901 Portage Road in Portage, Michigan, 49002. There it is. That's not Washington, D.C., folks. That is our government. That's not Washington, D.C. That's the Republic for which it stands. That is the Republic for which it stands. That is what we swore an oath to, the Republic for which it stands, which all children in school did that in my day. So I think we're going to end the program there, folks, and we can go on with the rest of this book. There's more information, and there's another book at home that I have, and we'll bring that on another program. And we're going to sign off for today, and I hope you've learned a lot over there. You can play the program over on YouTube and study what has been done in the year 2010 and 2011, and notices given to this de facto government what they're supposed to be doing, and will eventually do as the de jure government grows by individuals growing into it each and every day. You can look up republicfortheunited-states.org. Jeannie is the secretary for the. You can send donations to help the government, which I do, and I signed the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. In the modern day, the restoring of it, I signed that already as a citizen of the Republic for the United States of America. So my citizenship as a citizen of the United States of America, that citizenship was brought about by deception, so it's there, but it's not really true. And they're trying to hold people accountable for every citizenship that you brought into, but that citizenship stays functioning while we're working alongside this and bring a peaceful transition. We're not resisting by flesh and blood. We're working through the Spirit and asking God's help and the people's help to come together and grow as a garden grows, and we will come to the place, like God's word says, speak unto your mountain and it'll be removed and be thou cast into the sea. We're bringing forth the Republic. Hallelujah. God bless the Republic, and God bless those who died for the Republic in the Civil War and before that time, and those today that are suffering for her and for the gospel's sake. Goodbye now, folks.